Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ninth edition of Best Says. Before we get started with this episode, I would like to quickly make an announcement. I now have a Patreon that will be in the description down below, as well as Fetch Quest, Quest Mode, all that fun jazz. It is a way to support me without directly having to give your money from your wallet to me. You can do these quests. It can get you quest points, and you can earn sub points that could go to Patreon, which is why I made the Patreon. But the highest tier on the Patreon, if you wanted to directly contribute, is $5. There's 3 tiers: $1, $3, and $5. No worry about directly doing that, but if you want to via quest mode, that link is also in the description down below. I know some people have wanted to support me in this way for a little bit now. I've been doing content creation since 2016, and I've been a part of communities for that long as well. So, it just comes naturally. But anyway, moving on, I have brought a new guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Chris. I am the project lead for Vetted Games.
What does Vetted Games do?
So, Vetted Games is primarily a podcast that we do weekly. I think that we're going to be entering our 20th rendition. And in addition to that, we run a YouTube channel where we do analytical videos, some reviews, and then we put in some clips from the podcast so that everyone else gets a chance to listen to it if they don't have a Spotify or what other podcast streaming application out there. But we mainly look at gaming news and pop culture and anime and whatever is hot at the moment. So
Spotify didn't used to promote podcasts on their platform. Back the last time I used Spotify, there wasn't even a podcast section on it. I recently installed the app, and I now see that they do have a podcast section, and it is pretty good, honestly. It's not as bad as you think for something that's just initially in. Hopefully that goes well. We shall see. Our first topic of the episode: Washington on Tuesday joins Hawaii, Illinois, Vermont, and New York that ban anyone under the age of 21 from buying a semi-automatic assault rifle after voters passed a sweeping firearms measure in November that has drawn a court challenge from gun rights advocates. The ballot initiative seeks to curb gun violence by toughening background checks for people buying assault rifles, increasing the age limit to buy those firearms, and requiring the safe storage of all guns. Only the age limit portion of the measure goes into effect at the new year. The rest becomes law on July 1st. How do you feel about this topic?
so I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to gun control. When we look at this particular situation, I don't really think that putting an age limit on purchasing firearms is going to help the situation. The issue that we're running into is that we have mentally unstable people getting their hands on these weapons legally. And that's what the problem is. I You can teach an 18-year-old the proper way to handle and shoot a weapon. They do it every single day in our military. And I'm actually curious about that because does that stop um Marines and soldiers in those states from purchasing firearms if they are active duty? I would just be very curious about that. But beyond my own murmurings, the issue is that really we need to focus on gun control when it comes to dealing with people who are mentally unstable, who have PTSD, who have who essentially need a background check to see, should this is this person competent enough to own a firearm? And then on top of that, as I've mentioned previously, they need to start implementing like firearm courses. I think that a license to carry, period, is a better step than just start saying, okay, anyone under 21, you can't own a firearm or XYZ, anything else that they come up with. There needs to be real steps and guidelines into curbing this issue that we're having with our Second Amendment rights.
I completely agree with this assessment. The only flaw is, like, even if we break it down and go to a different gun category, like if you want to conceal carry or whatever, it's a different process in
Yes,
each state.
there's
And I just feel like
there is not a
that's also
federal
an issue.
guideline to licensing an individual for a firearm. And I think that if it was mandated at the federal level, then it would clear up the laws and ruling. But no, I agree with that.
There definitely needs to be a federal system in place that can get the job done on that end. But when it comes to mental health, I feel like that's also a pretty big thing.
Mhm.
Like even with school shootings and all that fun jazz, it definitely you can't put 100% of the blame on the guns. Sure, the guns were the tool that caused this, but at the same time, why did the person do it? What went on in their
Right. This
head
isn't
that
this is
led
an
them to
issue
that
dealing
point?
with individuals that have access to very dangerous weapons. That's what it comes down to. The law-abiding citizen is not the problem that we have. It's the individual. So, unfortunately, I don't see this being the a way to stop it. And to be quite honest, what's going to stop those 18 to 21-year-olds from going into their parents' bedroom and grabbing a firearm from there? Because we have people that are owners of firearms that don't handle their weapons as they properly should. They don't have gun lockers. They don't lock them up. They don't keep it on their person. I would say that that's also a better alternative. If it's not locked up, that thing needs to be on you at all times. So, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what they're doing.
it's definitely a tricky situation because it's hard to even on that end, like with the individual gun owner, it's hard to have every gun owner be responsible in that way and have a certain place for the guns to be where it's locked up and 18 to 21-year-old in that scenario wouldn't be able to get to them. It, it's basically almost impossible unless the government wants to supply people gun lockers and all that fun,
Right.
or some way to lock up their gun. Otherwise, even then, not everyone's gonna do it, but at least it enables everyone to do it.
Mhm.
But if you're adding an extra expense that isn't necessarily required right now, it definitely can become harder to enforce
I mean,
something like that from getting out of the hands of kids.
to the more extreme case, if we look at Japan, Japan has you know, gun rights to a certain extent. They're allowed to have air rifles and they're allowed to have shotguns. But the requirements for you to own a shotgun is very, very strict. You need to have a gun locker. You need to have been taking all these different safety courses. They take a lot of care and a lot of time into ensuring that if there's going to be someone that owns a weapon, they need to know how to properly use and manage that weapon. And they have people come in and inspect their homes and see, okay, where's your shotgun located? Is it in the proper place? And they'll do random checks on you. So I it's that method is a little bit draconian, and it's not the outcome that I want to see, but it could end up being a necessary evil until we find a better way of doing that, taking care of the situation.
I feel like when it comes to that solution, you have people in America that are really, really strongly against something like
Yeah,
this, just
absolutely.
as a general concept. So to even attempt this, I feel like that would definitely be a big. You'd meet a lot of resistance
Yeah, there
on that
there there
end.
would be a fight for that. And even I don't necessarily fully agree with that, but Japan doesn't have the gun problems that the United States has. And that you can chalk that up to being a cultural thing, or it can be a gun thing. But you know what? It's an avenue that we should at the very least research and explore. Maybe not
Yeah,
implement, but
definitely.
take a look at least.
Cause I was thinking like Q1 of last year, there was already multiple school shootings, and it's like, man, we're only like in February. What is this?
Yeah, no, it
Something needs to
was.
change.
I think that
And what has changed since then?
well, they put a ban in certain states between 18 to 21 that they can't buy guns. That's about it.
But what has that actually
No,
resolved?
nothing. And that's part of the point that I'm making. Like, these are feel good laws that they're passing that don't really do anything. Because the
I
average
just
18 to 21-year-old isn't always going out there and buying a gun. You might see that in the Midwest, but you're not going to see that on the coastal states. So, I mean, they're probably getting their weapons either from their parents, from their friends, or from the black market.
absolutely, and for me, I just don't understand why so many people are hell bent on focusing on the guns aspect and not the mental health aspect of it. I guess because that is harder than
So,
the previous.
from the perspective of a veteran and me knowing other veterans, there is a real threat to our Second Amendment rights. Um, if you come forward and say, "Hey, I have PTSD," because they want to do these background checks, and if you come forward and say, "Hey, I have PTSD," you're running the risk of losing your rights as a gun owner. So I think that for certain people who have certain mental health issues but are not hellbound crazy on shooting up schools and shit like that, there would be resistance from those groups. And I can fully understand why that would be. So,
It's definitely a very complicated issue. It's just finding the right path, or at least beginning to go down the right path to just beginning to make the change.
mm,
It does. It's hard because when it comes to mental health, it's hard to judge it for an average person. Even if you diagnose someone with this or this, you still can't predict what that specific person with this could do because another person with it could do something completely different.
right,
And it both be none of the diagnoses were wrong. It's just, it's hard to predict how people with certain things will react.
right.
It's a very complicated issue. I couldn't even begin to lay the layers of how we need to go about it, but need to do something.
Yes. No, I agree.
The next topic I have, still in America, California is set to become the first state in the United States to ban the sale of non-rescue animals in pet shops. The new law, known as AB 485, takes effect January 1st, of course, as I said earlier, already passed. Any businesses violating face a $500 fine. The charge means cats, dogs, and rabbits sold by retailers cannot be sourced from breeders, only from animal shelters. Animal rights groups have heralded it as a step forward against so-called kitten factories and puppy mills.
Yep.
They say the current high-volume industries where pets are bred for profit can lead to inhumane treatment and long-term emotional and physical health problems in some animals. The new statewide law, approved in late 2017, will now require shops to maintain sufficient records of where they source each animal for periodic check by authorities. Now, this is my initial reaction is I really like this change for California.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like conceptually this is a good idea. I'm just not sure of what the negatives are to this
So,
new law.
my wife actually brought this up to me a couple days ago because it was being showcased on BBC. But I think that this is overall a good thing. Here's where I kind of fall back a little bit. Do I agree with the kitten mill and the puppy mill? Absolutely not. But what about the private breeder? What about the one that has like built a small business or a side business, and they love their animals and they take care of their animals and they take one litter at a time and they breed these dogs? What about those people? Because they're essentially taking $7,000-8,000 per litter away from these people. So while I do agree that mass puppy factories or these ranches where they have hundreds of dogs just sitting there waiting to be picked up or be sold to a pet shop, um, this is infringing on people's essentially small businesses, because not never every single home is going to be an inhumane mess. I mean, especially if they take pride in what it is that they do. So I think that this is hurting some of the small time breeders. This is great for the shelters, because now there's just a one track avenue for getting a dog.
100%. The thing for me as I process what you said, and I know it's not a completely fair
Hmm.
comparison, but in my head, my immediate thought was, okay, would it be okay to want to have multiple children and sell them? Now that's a completely unfair comparison, but at the same time, it's breeding an animal and selling them to someone else as a small business.
Yep.
And when I look at it like that, I don't see it as an okay thing. But at the same time, I understand that these are two completely different things.
Yeah, I mean, like, what is the purpose for having children? To carry on your bloodline, to enjoy them, to teach them, so that you can raise
To
humans. What's the point of a pet? It's not
hey,
exactly the same thing.
hey, if you want, I can find you legitimate reasons why you'd want to sell a kid.
I mean, yeah, sure. If we want to go down this avenue, I got a 2-year-old
For
every now and
example,
then that I want to go sell and whatnot, but
a legitimate reason. If you have a gay couple that wants a kid, obviously they do not have the
ability.
immediate means there to do so.
Hmm.
So, buy a kid.
No, and that's right. And the adoption system in the United States is all sorts of screwed up. I agree with you. And there are people
And
out
I
there
feel
that are willing
like,
to be surrogate mothers, and there's just certain parents that cannot take care of their children, and they would be loving parents for those children. So, I mean, I get what you're saying.
but as I said, it's a completely unfair comparison. I just want to keep saying that. It's an unfair comparison. That's where my mind went to immediately.
Yeah, I'm tracking.
But at the same time, the mental issues that could happen to the kid for that, could we guarantee that doesn't happen to a dog or cat or rabbit?
There would need to be a lot of studies done on the mental state of those animals and how they process the world around them. Do those animals get attached the same way that a small child or a baby does to their mother? Is the separation anxiety on the same level? And to a certain extent, I would say yes, because in certain um, pet guides, especially when you're getting like small puppies and kittens and whatnot, they tell you, you can it's recommended to simulate the experience of having the mother next to the puppy as they sleep. So I think that there is some science in what you're saying.
So, if we continue to go down this path, if we can also say that there would be a emotional effect on these animals, should breeding and selling them be a thing?
Well, so I get what you're saying, but let's look at it if we just solely focus on the shelters real quick. The intent and purpose is to reduce the number of animals that are living in these shelters. Let's say that this is extremely successful and it reduces the number of shelters or it reduces the number of animals that are living in these shelters to the point where it becomes kind of difficult to get an animal or get a pet. Then what? Because the animals aren't going to stop breeding. Um, I mean, and you're always going to get the alley cat and the stray dog here and there. But if this program is as successful as what California is hoping it to be, there is going to be an ultimate shortage in animals being available.
That is very true, and I would like to give another insight to what happened in my head as you were saying that. As I processed that, I'm like, oh, so, alleyway cat, so like a person in high school getting pregnant and having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's just complicated situations, and I definitely agree, like, if this was to go perfectly, then there will be a shortage of animals. So at the same time, maybe there should be a more private way for the people that breed to do it. Maybe more of a different system and not the same system.
I mean, what does a breeder do in order to sell their litter? I mean, a lot of it is word of mouth. It's not like every single breeder goes into the classified ads or on Craigslist and say, hey, we just had a litter of puppies. A lot of it is word of
Very
mouth.
true.
So, and I mean, like, for some people, the solution might be that they would just have to give those puppies away. But breeding is essentially incentivized when you're talking about purebreds. Because
Yes.
there is monetary value, like a corgi. I was looking up how much a corgi would be for our family. They're running anywhere between $800 to $1,200 for a single puppy. So I mean, there's a market somewhere.
There definitely is. There's a market for everything, which makes me have to ask, how much does a kid cost?
$30,000. I mean, I think that's what the cost of the adoption is.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, don't
so
quote me on
what we're
that,
saying
but
is a kid is very much more valuable than a corgi.
yes, because there's a lot more severe laws that you'll face if something goes wrong with a child than a dog. So
Very true.
rightly so.
Yeah. You know, this isn't a topic I had lined up, but I would also like to move us to, I want there to be laws in place, not just against humans, but all animals regarding trespassing in homes. I would like to criminally charge any ladybug or mouse or anything that wants to trespass in a home. I feel like this causes a lot of distress, and I feel like something should be done about it on a federal level.
You're gonna have to look into the federal government initiating talks with the Ladybug Federation and the Mouse Brigade. So I do wish you luck on that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like 2020 is going to be the year. Whoever the next president is, that better be one of the things they want to promote.
Mad Dog Mattis, 2020.
I'll vote for them. Yes. Yes, exactly. So, the next topic in line. South Florida student. Notice, we're moving all across the country in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
South Florida student demands SAT score be released after she's accused of cheating. A South Florida student accused of cheating on her SATs held a press conference Wednesday along with her high-profile attorney, Benjamin Crump. I'm not going to say her name. I did not cheat, she said. I studied to achieve my dreams, and I know to achieve them, I had to be focused and dedicated, and I won't let ETS or anyone take my dreams away from me. She received a letter from the Educational Testing Services saying her October SAT scores were invalid. She said it is due to a 300-point score increase from March. She studied harder than she ever studied before, focused more than she ever focused before to conquer this test. She made a 1,230 on the SAT in October. I turned in a letter from my tutor, a letter from my teacher, and I wrote a statement myself. I also turned in pictures of the study book I used on my own, she said. her alongside her mother, community members, and Crump asking ETS to release her scores immediately. She stayed up late night. She stayed up early morning studying. She receives extra tutoring because she set a goal in her head she wanted to reach, and she accomplished that goal. She deserves to be honored, the student's mother said. An ETS official released a statement regarding the issue, saying, "We cannot discuss specific student scores. After every test administration, we go to great lengths to make sure that all test scores we report are accurate and valid. In order to do so, we sometimes take additional quality control steps before scores are released. We do not cancel scores based on a score gain alone. We will only cancel scores after we are confident that there is substantial evidence to do so." She has created a GoFundMe page which states that she may now be forced to pay for college without scholarship assistance due to her SAT score being withheld. The website states that she can unable to accept money for legal fees, but will spend the funds at her sole discretion. There's a lot to take in this topic, and
Yeah.
first, I think we should ask the general question: do you think she cheated, or do you think she was made her score invalid for no good reason?
So I can't really confirm or deny whether or not she cheated based on the evidence that's been given. However, from the way that it sounds, they're judging it based off of a increase in her previous score, which means that she's probably scored like what, somewhere around in the 1500s, which isn't even that strong of a score on the SAT to begin with because the top score is 2400. But I digress on that. Like a 300 points increase is not infallible evidence of cheating. So unless the school or whatever venue was hosting this SAT can provide actual evidence of her cheating, there's not really a leg to stand on. But it just sounds like more BS is coming from the state of Florida because they're always coming up with some crazy ass shit anyway. Yeah, no, I'm just not. I'm not grasping on anything that's going on here. It doesn't make sense.
I feel like the problem with this story is we only have one side, a very biased side of the story.
Clearly, yes.
We don't have the necessary information from the other side to indicate if they have any actual evidence in line that they can show to anyone to prove that she cheated. Now, keep in mind, this isn't something I really considered during the story. I don't think they correlate, but a lot of people, when hearing this story, wanted to point out that she was black. I don't think that her SAT score being invalid has to do with her skin color. Personally, I dismiss that immediately. I don't think that's the cause of this situation. If so, it would be much more rampant, and we'd hear more about it every year.
Yeah, I'm not buying
time,
that either. I mean, so people say that people of color have harder times getting job interviews and scholarships based on their name. And I mean, if there's somebody up at the Florida Board of Education that's going through these SATs or however it works, and they sat there and compared the scores and say, "Oh, so and so has a black sounding name. She must have cheated." That's some bullshit. That's some serious bullshit. But even then, I don't see that being that. It would be ludicrous. That's the best way that I can put it. And if that's the case, then holy fucking shit. But I don't see that being it.
And at the same time, when we only have one side of this story that is very biased and clearly favoring her, since half of this is her words, I feel like at the same time, maybe she simply is lying here. Maybe she did not maybe she did cheat, maybe she lied in some way and was caught in this lie. Maybe she simply, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how all the SAT stuff work anymore,
I,
but I definitely feel like it is suspicious when you make a GoFundMe about this situation.
I mean, people make a
That
GoFundMe
raises a
about
red flag.
everything. People make a GoFundMe about everything, and it can be both nefarious and in goodwill. But to be honest, at the end of the day, there is nothing that we can really say because we don't know the full story. The other side is not speaking up, and there might be a reason why they're not speaking up, whether it be they are legally bound to silence or they're doing an internal investigation. It at the end of the day, we really can't point the finger just yet, even if it does seem a little suspect that they're posting up a GoFundMe. You can't really say anything.
I feel like I agree, but at the same time, we talked about selling children. I feel like maybe we could sell her. Clearly, her charisma level is higher than the normal person's charisma level,
I
and their barter is a little bit higher, so we can sell her for an increased price.
I have no comment on that statement.
I wonder why.
I am not walking into that.
Did you at least like that I used Fallout references in that?
Yes. Kudos on the Fallout references. +1 on you.
I've been playing a lot of Skyrim Special Edition this week, so Bethesda and Fallout and Skyrim, they're all in the brain this week.
Didn't they? Weren't they part of the Steam sale?
I have no idea. I played it on the PS4.
Okay, got it.
I am a console plebe. I am not PC Master Race right now.
No such thing. It's all about the multi-console monarchy, man.
Yep. And I'd like to talk about Skyrim Special Edition for a second. I have been really anti-kids for all of my life, and I don't know what it is. Skyrim Special Edition broke that for me, because if you have the Special Edition, it includes all the added stuff they did after the initial game release.
Yeah, it's got all the DLC.
And you can adopt children, and that child that I met in Whiterun and adopted, such a sweet child. It warms my heart on that issue just a little bit.
Just a little bit? Maybe that's just the child that you're meant to have, man. Maybe that's just it.
Yes, I will have to find the voice actor, turn them into a child, and buy the child.
Alright, man.
That's the theme of this episode. We're going to convert people and sell them.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm sure that's only 5 ways illegal, right?
It's the only form of legal slavery, man.
But I feel like a lot of people made jokes about Skyrim always re-releasing on various, now Skyrim's on the Nintendo Switch, now it's on VR, now it's on this, and now it's on that, and now it's on here, and now it's on that. But at the same time,
the great prostitute of Bethesda, man.
I played Skyrim back on the Xbox 360, and not to say there's groundbreaking differences, but the special edition for the PS4 has a lot of improvements. The most major for me being the loading screens. Like, those are just almost completely wiped. There is no minute-long or more loading screens on the PS4 for Skyrim.
So, when I played Skyrim, I played on the PS3, the Xbox 360, I played on the Xbox One, and I played on the PC. Playing the PC version and seeing the difference between the two, there really isn't much. My PC's a little bit optimized, so that was going to be a given. The PS3 port of Skyrim was absolutely atrocious. So seeing the jump between the PS3 to the PS4 and Xbox One, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. And you could say the same thing about the 360. However, I didn't really have many issues with the loading. It was really more graphical, and I mean, it's always nice getting all the DLC at once. So, but
And I definitely feel like back when it released on the 360, I feel like graphically the game wasn't bad.
it wasn't. It
It
absolutely
was a
wasn't.
beautiful game at the time.
But we're talking about a game that's what is it? Skyrim's like 7, 8 years old now.
2011.
Yeah, it's gonna be 8 years old this year. I mean, a game 8 years ago is not going to look as good as a game from today. And even then, I mean, while we're on the topic, the special edition doesn't even look that good compared to games today. And that's because it's really more or less an HD remaster. It's not even a remake. So,
You know the one thing I wish they would have fixed with the special edition?
what's that?
And this is kind of a Bethesda thing anyway. Why the fuck did they have flippers?
What do you mean?
Like, have you looked? Like, if you don't have any shoes or boots on, like, the hands, they look mostly normal. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you have fucking flippers.
Well, I
You don't
mean,
have actual feet.
flippers. I mean, it's feet. I mean, like you're wearing the sandals, and that's like your default for your shoes. But I mean, they're not making you walk around barefoot because that's not the attire of middle-aged Europe at the time. So I mean, that's where a lot of high fantasy source material comes from. I could see the reason why.
But at the same time, is it not lazy on their part that you have flippers?
I mean, yeah, you could say that if they were going to cut any corner, that would probably be one of the best corners to cut.
It just bothers me because at the beginning, you can see it like you wear the foot wraps at the beginning automatically. That's your initial thing.
Yeah.
So you can clearly see it.
Yeah.
And it's a very small thing, but it's a very small thing that you could have fixed in the special edition. It didn't have to stay that way.
Maybe. Here's hoping that, Elder Scrolls 6 fixes that issue. When we see it in 2024. No, absolutely not. Especially with Bethesda's track record right now.
It'll be half flippers.
Exactly. There'll be a joint at the ball, and that'll be it. At the ball of the foot, and that'll be it.
You know, the way I play Skyrim right now compared to how I would stream Skyrim are completely different. I do so many tedious things when I play Skyrim. Like, you have Conjuration, right?
Yeah.
I always get that spell to reanimate something, and I kill everything twice. Like, I just kill everything I possibly can twice for the experience.
Okay, I mean, as long as it's effective, that's not really an issue. I don't use magic at all. I am like straight barbarian. Give me the biggest sword possible. Let me eat this entire barrel of cheese. Like,
you know, there are skills I don't use in Skyrim, but for the most part, when it comes to combat, I use all three depending on the situation. And I feel like, okay, I'll use up my magicka. Okay, I have some arrows. Let me use my arrows for kind of long range here. Let me shoot that giant in the face, just piss him off a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely value the
when it comes to
stuff.
close combat, yeah. I always feel like you want a short range and long range option available at all times.
Right. No, that's definitely true. So, but I definitely think that I need to, at least when I play, I need to start focusing a little bit more on the stealth aspect, because you could put up some crazy amounts of damage running thief and just being stealthy. Like those sneak back attacks. I've seen someone put out a 16 multiplier. Maybe I think I might have even seen someone put out a 32 multiplier. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I saw some dude just one shot a dragon with a dagger from behind. Like, that's nuts.
It absolutely is. And for me, like, you know how when you leave Whiterun and you have to go to that tower to face the very first dragon?
Yes.
And you know how I don't 100% know the direction. We'll say north or northeast. You have the giants and mammoths.
Mm-hmm.
If I have spare arrows, I'll go over there. I'll shoot arrows at them, and I'll just go back to the tower, go right in the door, or you go right. You have to go in the door if it's a giant that follows you. You don't have to be inside the tower if it's a mammoth. They can't climb all the way up there,
Mm-hmm.
and I just camp them.
Nice.
I just camp them and use my arrows.
Nice.
And I just feel like, for me, like, I'm currently playing Skyrim as I listen to podcasts. It's something I really enjoy playing, like an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout game, and just listen to a podcast as I do it.
What podcast
It
do you
makes it
listen to?
when it comes to playing a game like Skyrim, I generally stick to Painkiller already. It's a 4-hour podcast, so it gives me plenty of time.
Okay.
Because Skyrim, of course, if you take your time in Skyrim, it's going to take you dozens and dozens and hundreds of hours
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
get
I
one thing done.
I got friends that got logged in over 1,000 hours into that game. So
I
you
don't
get your
think it's
money's
hard to
worth.
lock in 1,000.
Yeah.
100%. When it comes to me, like, I don't believe 90% of games, to me personally, where I'm at right now in life, 90% of games are worth like $5 to me. I wouldn't pay more than $5. But like Skyrim, that's $20 no problem. Could you get me higher than 20? Maybe. Can you squeeze 60 out of me for any game? I don't think so. It's really going to take a super perfect game to acquire a 60 from me.
Well, I mean, as time goes on, depreciation will hit all those games, and you'll be able to hit pretty much buy anything at that price range. So I don't think you'll have much of an issue.
Exactly. I don't. I just wait my time. I don't play games immediately. I will have to play games immediately and get away from that mindset in the coming years. But right now, when I'm not streaming or anything, it does not hurt me to stick with my mindset.
Yep.
So, instead of talking about Skyrim for the next hour, because I could talk about Skyrim for the next hour and be perfectly content. One teenager was accidentally shot and another committed suicide in related tragedies hours before ringing in the new year in Georgia. A group of teens had gathered at a makeshift shed in Lawrenceville, an upscale suburb of Atlanta, on Monday afternoon when one of them pulled a handgun and accidentally shot one of the others, according to the local county police department. 2 of the 4 teens ran, but police believed the boy who fired the original shot stayed in the shed and called 911. Responding officers found one teen dead inside the shed and then heard a single gunshot while attempting to locate the involved party from the initial 911 call. So, to sum that up, you have one teenager accidentally shot and another committed suicide related to. What a tragic way to end 2018 in Georgia.
Yeah, just thinking about the parents, especially the parent that, you know, their son was innocent, completely innocent. Like that's going to haunt them for the rest of their lives. And it's a terrible tragedy.
At the same time, it is a tragedy. I'm not discounting that, and that's what my point's about to be. Going back earlier in the podcast, when it comes to the 18 to 21 thing, I didn't see a specific age for this story, but they use teenagers and teens multiple times, so I have to assume
that they
are
17.
21 or younger.
I would go even younger.
Well, sometimes people will consider a young adult like a teenager still. If you're super old, you'll still call them a teenager. So we'll assume 21 or younger.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah, thank God
and I
think go out and buy it.
Yeah, this is definitely a scenario in which a kid got a gun from somewhere they shouldn't have. They clearly did not own this gun. Because if they did, they definitely did not pass many tests to acquire this firearm. And it really is a tragedy to see an example of what happens when you put a gun in the hand of someone random and they play around with it when a firearm is not something to play with around others, especially if you're pointing it in any of their directions, even in their general direction.
No, I mean, you're definitely right when it comes to the safety rules, but it's I don't want to get into the speculation of it because it's a shitty situation. Some kids, some parents' kid passed away from be it ignorance or whatnot. It sucks. There was no those kids had no business having the weapon. The parent of the kid who had the weapon should have known where it was located. Should have had it locked up. But at the end of the day, you need to be more mindful of things like this because you don't know the unpredictability of certain people. And that's kind of where this all lands this situation. The kid got a gun. We don't know if it was given to him by the parents or if he just picked it up and took it or whatnot. But either this kid was joking around or he took something a little bit too seriously or whatnot. But it just sucks, man. That's just what it comes down to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. If wherever the person got the gun from, if that would have been more secured, hopefully something like this would not have happened.
Right.
Which goes back to your idea from earlier of what Japan did, and it's like pros and cons to everything. So, hard to say what the answer is, but as you said, this was a tragedy. It's hard to speculate exactly what happened that led to this, but it cost 2 people their lives, one directly, well, 2 directly technically, but one, but it's just a very big shame.
Right.
Guns are just nothing to play around with, and I think that is an education you should have in schools and parents to teach kids at a very young age.
No, I agree. I mean, there's firearm safety and firearm handling classes that go on in Russia at the school level. I mean, a lot of people would protest against it. I'm very pro Second Amendment. I think that especially if the United States is going to embrace the gun culture as it has, it needs to start leaning forward. And that means taking some responsibility in ensuring that, hey, these kids, some of you may never own a weapon in your life. You need to know how to handle one. You need to know that it's not a toy. But I may be part of the vocal minority in that.
Maybe, maybe not. I feel like when it comes to any kind of majority or minority, it's really hard to say what's actually the minority opinion because a lot of people on a lot of different stances, not even related to any gun or violence thing, I feel like you want to be the underdog. Because more people can sympathize with the underdog. So you want to be that minority opinion.
I don't view it like that. And the reason why I don't is the underdog is like the individual that you cheer. This is more of a political debate on how or certain elements of society being run. And there are people that hold very passionate views on what we should do and where we should stand on these issues. The underdog viewpoint of it kind of makes the entire situation feel like a Disney movie, so to say, when that's not really the setting.
Make sure to buy Disney Plus.
Yeah, there's the Disney Plus plugin.
Yeah, I can agree with that, you know. while you were saying that, that brought to my head another topic. Is the government still on a partial shutdown?
To my understanding, I believe that it is. It is not affecting DoD workers, so I am not 100% sure. I've just been focusing on my thing.
Have you read or heard about this whole why the government is in a partial shutdown?
Yes, it has to do with the wall. It has a
Yeah.
lot to do.
How do you feel about this?
I mean, I have said previously that a wall is not going to fix the immigration problem. Is it going to help? Is it going to assist? Yeah, it will in certain aspects. 40% of all of our illegal immigrants come here on plane. And then there's a certain percentage that comes here on boat, a certain percentage that is born here from other illegal immigrants that came here a long time ago. The wall is not going to it let me phrase it like this. The $5 billion to put up a wall does not sound like it is the we're necessarily going to get our money's worth when it comes to the illegal immigration that we're stopping. Does this mean that all the drugs in South America are going to stop crossing the border over here? Probably not. There's going to be other ways. There's already been other ways of doing it. It just sounds like a really expensive tax bill that we're going to be fronting somehow.
So, to go the next step, do you agree with Donald Trump stubbornly? I think it's fair to say he's stubborn on this issue. This is something he's talked about for years. This is something he's wanted for years. He's very hell-bent on this. Do you think stubbornly keeping the government partially shut down to try and acquire what he wants is the right thing to do?
Well, a lot of the reason why the government is partially shut down to begin with is because the military has been fully funded from last year or earlier last year. So that's really the reason why we're in a quote unquote partial shutdown. The question is that is he in the right for shutting down the government over this wall fiasco? And that's not a right or wrong answer. That is his right as president to take a stance and say, I want this wall. I'm going to do whatever it is that I can to get this wall. And this is just a strategy that he is taking, he's well within his rights of doing so. I don't want to see it go down that way, even though it's not really affecting me. But this is a political strategy that he's taken. So that's kind of the way that I view it.
And I haven't really kept up to super date about it, but I am aware that when it comes to verbal statements, that the key words they've been using recently appears that Trump is budging on it. And spokespersons for him talk about not necessarily a wall, but security and other different keywords that aren't wall. So it appears to get the job done in this scenario, he may have to move on from this majestic wall he wants.
Right.
He may have to put this fund into a different form of immigration.
If he's got to increase Homeland Security's budget and expand Homeland Security along the border, that may be an outcome that he has to start exploring, because it doesn't sound like Congress is too keen on getting this wall built. And frankly, I think it's a waste of money. Do I think that Homeland Security should be getting $5 billion? Nah. But again, I don't know the details on it. We'll have to see what the outcome is ultimately.
What would your first step be in increasing security for the U.S. to avoid illegal immigrants?
Well, there's two ways of doing it. You can deploy the National Guard on a permanent rotation along the border, but that could ultimately become incredibly costly, especially in areas where illegal immigration foot traffic is not as prevalent as other areas. Um, Again, you can up the border security, and what you can start doing is you can start upping the the immigration within the United States, and whether that comes down to expanded manhunts on tracking down illegal immigrants, that can be something that they can start exploring. I personally am of the mindset that there needs to be immigration reform anyway. I just don't think that the immigration laws that we have, especially with the circumstances that are currently going on, if you look at the migrants coming from South America, that how do I put this? I think that in certain situations that there should be more lax immigration laws. I think that we need to be more stricter when it comes to those immigrants breaking the laws, but I think that we should be more lenient on individuals coming into the United States. Um, I think that the individuals that come here on a visa, on whatever visa that they're coming here on, need to be heavily monitored with what it is that they're doing, with whether they're sending money home or if they're trying to build their life here, or if they're here on nefarious circumstances. They need to. I think that that is the better outcome or the better course of action that they should be taking, rather than building a fucking wall.
You know, your first solution of increasing the National Guard, I'm not sure I understand the difference in effectiveness between that and a wall.
So the deployment of the National Guard to do like a rotation out there. It's almost like doing a deployment and having them out there, and making sure that nobody's crossing over or anything like that. Would it be less expensive for them to do that over, an X amount of time, whether it's over the course of the next 10 years? Is $5 billion, uh or is it less expensive than building a wall over sending the National Guard out there? But even then, I don't personally support that outcome. I think that there is other things that they can be doing, whether it's, like I said, working with immigration on allowing more people to come in here, but becoming more strict on the crimes that illegal immigrants commit in the United States. I think that that's probably a better outcome.
I can agree with that. I I have a joking answer to the immigration issue,
Sure.
but my more serious answer is definitely there are adjustments that we can make, but I feel like we should make sure people want to go down the legal path to come to the United States and be a citizen. I don't think people that want to come over here and legally be a citizen should be discouraged. I feel like that should be an okay thing to do. I do feel that for the sake of more, what am I looking for here? More ease of access and more better enjoyment, quality of life. We'll go with quality of life. You definitely want to learn. You want to have better English. You want to know the culture that America has around it, especially depending on what state you're in, because I feel like that varies a lot, state from state. But I definitely feel like you want to adjust yourself more and learn more about where you are, and just for quality of life, not a requirement of, oh, you have to do this, that way we can force you to be like us, but more to gel well with others around you and help you out as you're here. I think it helps to know the language better and to know and to have the knowledge of the culture and stuff. That way, your quality of life while you're here is definitely better than it would be otherwise. My joking answer is if you want to enter the country, then you have to sell your kids under the system I
Oh
talked
my
about
God.
earlier. Have to go back to it.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely feel like quality of life is a thing that people should have when they come here compared to where they were. But it's hard when you're like, if you don't know the language, I feel like it definitely makes your life harder while you're here immediately.
I think that everyone who is trying to come to the United States is looking for a better quality of life. And I do agree that
Absolutely.
these individuals need to start coming here under legal circumstances. Crossing the border illegally is not going to solve anything because you're essentially walking on eggshells. And I do believe that if you do come here illegally, depending on the circumstances, that you should be deported immediately. However, when we start talking about instances of people who have been living here for 30 plus years or 20 plus years, let's call them anchor babies. I mean, those are not people that should be deported. They were born here, they lived here, they don't know anything else. And even in certain circumstances where people are trying to cross the border, come over here for asylum or whatnot, I think that there should be lax instances of allowing these people to stay in the United States. And I know that we have talked previously before about the caravan issue that's down there. You know, I do think that there should be some level of responsibility that the United States is taking in ensuring that these people either go wherever it is they need to go and that they're well taken care of medically and fed, and you know that they're of good health before we send them off to wherever it is that they're going. So
100%, I definitely feel like if you've been here for a decade plus and you live here, you're basically a citizen here, you should not be deported in that scenario. I don't think that is an appropriate action. The only exception would be like if you were a serial killer or something extreme like that. I could see that scenario.
oh no, I would not deport that person.
Would you not?
No, that's you. We own you now. You're stuck here, and we're gonna make sure that you don't go anywhere. It's death penalty or life in prison. It is what it is. But that's kind of the point
Yeah.
that I'm making. You have these people that come here from other countries that commit heinous crimes, and for certain states, the answer is to deport him. What's stopping him from coming back here? Nothing. There's a situation in California where a immigrant from, I think, San Diego or San Francisco just kept on coming back after he's killed people. No, no, you get to stay here, buddy, but you're going to stay in one of our penitentiaries.
Good point. Good point. Definitely. Yeah, I can agree with that. Good point.
No.
Definitely. Beats my mindset there. Good to adjust the mindset sometimes. So, my one final big topic. After ringing in the new year, you now have a new option for picking up your dinner in Oregon when a law allowing people to harvest and eat roadkill goes into effect. Lawmakers approved the measure back in 2017, which states salvaging deer and elk struck by vehicles is legal in Oregon. People must complete and submit an application for a permit within 24 hours of salvaging the elk or deer. The application cannot be submitted beforehand because it requires specific information about location and time of the salvage. Here are some of the rules. You're not allowed to hit an animal on purpose to collect the meat. The entire carcass of the animal must be removed from the road. You will not be allowed to sell any part of the salvaged animal. Only deer and elk accidentally struck by a vehicle may be salvaged. Antlers and the head of all salvaged animals must be surrendered to an ODSW office within 5 business days of processing the carcass. and there was more rules, but that was all the rules that were listed in the articles I read. So, how do you feel about you can now obtain roadkill
So I
for
got
dinner?
so I got a story about this. When I was
Oh boy.
when I was in North Carolina, I was attached to one of the special operation units down there. I was driving home from my sergeant's place because we were busy putting up a fence. It's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's dark. It's in the middle of winter, and my headlight is out. I'm driving with one headlight, and there's no lights going down 17. And I just see the figure of this 6-point buck just standing in the middle of the road, and I nail him. And I launch him like 20 feet. My entire front end is busted. I'm cursing up a storm. I drive like another half mile down just in pure anger before I pull over to assess the damage. My car is totaled. I walk back down. I grab this deer out of frustration. I walk another half mile back, just dragging this bitch. And I finally sit down. I lay it out in front of my car, and I sit on the roof of my car. I'm just like, what am I gonna do with this thing anyway? So I call my sergeant up, and I'm like, hey man, I just want to let you know I hit a deer. His first question's not asking how I am. He's just like, is it still there? I'm on my way. He calls my other Marine. He calls me. He's like, is the deer still there? Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. And he's just like, no, I'll be right there with my pickup truck. A cop comes back down, sees what happened. It's like, oh, so you hit a deer. You gonna keep that thing? And this is all within the time frame of 15 minutes. I have to call a tow truck to come down. The guy with the tow truck comes down, and he looks at the deer and just like, you planning on keeping that? 4 separate people are asking me if I'm going to keep this piece of roadkill on the road. And I was like, you know what? I think I am.
You know what I'm hearing here?
That it's
This is a very profitable market.
Yeah, pretty much fresh kill. And I mean, my buddy ended up taking it off my hands that night and throws it in the back of his truck. And the way that he explained it was like, dude, the entire right side of its body was obliterated, but the left side is perfect. And he brings in deer jerky the next day. And I'm just like, oh, I killed it. I might as well eat some.
Did it taste good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad. I think that he sucks at making deer jerky, but the deer jerky wasn't all that bad. He also brought in venison steaks. So, I mean, I ate my own roadkill. So there's that. So I don't necessarily think that this is really that big of a deal. I don't really understand the whole paperwork process, but I mean, if they want to tax roadkill, then go ahead, man. I don't care.
You know, I really disagree with one of the rules here. You're not be allowed to sell any part of the selfish animal. I feel like we're really limiting the market of roadkill after your story. There's clearly a market in certain places for this.
So you're probably right, but first off, anybody can kill a deer with their car. I've done it a few times, but I can understand because you're selling essentially a tainted piece of meat. Because when you hit that animal, and this goes back to what I was saying about the right side of the body being obliterated, when you puncture and have the organs start spilling into the meat, you can't eat it. It's poisoned. It's tainted. It becomes bad. So if you start to sell tainted meat or poisoned meat, I mean, yeah, no, just don't do that. That's bad. That's a bad.
But at the same time,
there, yeah, you can argue that there is a market somewhere, at least in North Carolina.
There should be a marketplace in which you can bring local roadkill, and they will assess it and see if they want to purchase it. And if they want to purchase it, you should get some money for it.
The problem that you start running into is that once you kill that animal, you are running against a timer. because the damaged organs seeping into the rest of the meat, that animal needs to be carved up immediately. Two, I mean, are you gonna have half of Bambi just sitting in your freezer until the next day? Like, come on now.
But see, I feel like this is a pro, not a con, because you don't want to encourage people to run over deer and elk. But if you happen to accidentally run over deer and elk, at least you can make some of the profit back from where they damaged your vehicle.
I mean, how much does a pound of venison go for in the United States?
I have no idea.
$13. I lost I got like $2.5 grand for my totaled vehicle. So I think that you come out on top regardless.
So I feel like you are, thanks to your fun experience, you're more pro.
I do have some specialized insight into this field. I don't think I'll go out on a limb and say that I'm necessarily an expert. However, I do have a specialization in roadkill. I have learned a lot through my experience. We'll put it that way.
You know, I have a solution to avoid roadkill.
And what is that?
We should adjust all vehicles going back to the very first vehicle. And we should put the softest mattresses around the vehicle that we possibly can. And see how that goes.
Yeah, but then your front end becomes incredibly heavy. You're going to fuck up your tires. You're going to need an alignment every 3 weeks instead of every 3 months. That's a terrible idea. I can't see half of my windshield. I'd have to get my car lifted. It's a Kia. No one lifts a Kia.
So I guess. But think about the safety.
The safety? What happens if the mattress comes off and it goes into my axle? That's a problem. I can't drive that.
And just think about what the poor motorcyclist will have to do.
I mean...
We're just going to put the motorcycles in a bubble.
Yeah, I guess. Put a barrier.
You know those bubble things you can go in?
Yeah.
That roll around? We're going to put you in that.
You can't do that with a motorcycle, though, because then they'll start, like, breathing their own exhaust and die.
That's also true. I didn't think about that point. You can have holes in the bubble, and I think you're still...
Then the bubble deflates. What's the point?
Fair point.
I think there's a reason why these ideas the brainstorming step. I think that we're discovering that reason why. But you'll eventually find something, and then when you do, you gotta capitalize on the patent.
I will be the vehicle safety expert.
Yes.
Heading into 2021.
Yes.
That will be what I run for president on. Vehicle safety.
On an off year. Okay. Let me know how that goes.
I will campaign for 3 years.
Very well.
And we'll see how that goes.
Very well.
People will value their vehicle safety, and I will find the idea that works. Maybe I just put Jell-O around their vehicle. There's a lot of experimenting for
There's a lot
safety.
of experimenting that you need to do. Absolutely. Maybe
I go in Skyrim, I get the stone flush spell, and I just cast it on all the vehicles.
Yep. That's the plan. Or we can all learn how to do that instant transmission, and then we don't have to fucking worry about cars anymore.
You know, I really wish humans could fly.
That would be a terrible idea. What about the drunks? Flying under, while intoxicated is not a good thing.
Well, that's clearly a law you can make. No flying under the influence.
Yeah, but then you need people to enforce it, and then there's going to be air traffic.
Well, that's what cops are for.
It's
That's what the cops are for.
I just want to know, like, an high speed chase of some drunk flyer and the cops. Like, I don't know, man. I'm reaching. I'm trying to work with it.
Hey, if I feel like the simple solution here is, if you're flying, can you really turn very well?
So, I mean, in my study of planes and birds, I do know that you would need to have some sort of rudder or tail end device to help you turn midair. And then there's angles, and I know I'm too
It all makes
fat to
sense
figure
now.
that out, but
Skyrim is innovating it. That's what the flippers are for.
that's what the flippers are for. There you go. You figured it out.
Now, why can't I fly in Skyrim?
Exactly.
The mammoths do. I see the mammoth coming from the sky.
Just do a console command to fly, man. That's how you do it.
Why can't I do console commands on a console? Why can't I do console commands on a PC?
That's a really good question. But there's an answer for it. I'm not that guy, but there's an answer for it.
Find out the answer to this question on the next edition of Best Says. Maybe. Probably not. Maybe I'll just that'll be the new question I ask everyone.
Why isn't there console commands on console? But there's console commands on PC?
Yes, why is it only on PC?
Okay.
Yep. Which goes to the question that you have answered already, but you haven't answered officially.
Oh, what is
the
that?
Lost episode about Disney Plus on consumption of Disney Plus. And will you be getting Disney Plus?
So, it's not for me. There's not enough Disney IPs that I am interested in. I think that the last time that we spoke, we talked about Star Wars, and that would be it, really. I'll just buy.
I have a new counter for you.
Okay.
What if I tell you? Let me put myself in Disney's shoes.
Okay.
What if I tell you you're wrong and that you want to fucking build a snowman?
That's a fight. I would then fight that representative, and then if I lose, then I'll build the fucking snowman. But if I win, I ain't buying shit. That's just how that will go.
If you win, you're gonna be like, okay, bye.
Pretty much. And then I yell at him, get off my lawn.
Isn't that what you want? Like a representative from different companies knocking on everyone's door?
Yeah. So the representative comes to your door and they say, hey, buy this. And we're like, no, you want me to buy it? You have to beat me in a fight. And I set up a ring and everything. Everyone gets gloves.
Have a wrestling match?
Yeah. Fucking power bomb you off the third rope.
Ouch.
It really doesn't hurt.
Who's gonna be the referee?
Fucking, I'll get my neighbor. Get my neighbor that's like
a neighbor that likes you or dislikes you.
Dislikes me. It's important.
You're gonna have to pay off the ref then.
No, I won't, because I'm going to. You know how the heel in the matches sometimes beats up the ref. It'll give me the opportunity to beat the two of them up. It'll be great.
That means you're gonna need a backup ref though.
Nah, man. Nah, there's gonna be an entire federation. The CEO or whoever's in charge will come out here and like be like, hey, what's going on here? And then Vince McMahon will be like, you're not even supposed to be fighting up here to begin with. And then it's this whole big drama. I'll drink 6 beers.
You're fired.
Yeah, they'll say I'm fired. And then I can't buy anything because I don't have a job. And then the representative has to leave my house. And that's how we solve it.
And then I'll come from behind and I'll just get a roll-up quick pin on you, and I'll be the winner.
Yeah.
And I'll make you buy my product.
Which is?
We've talked about it multiple times on the episode. Would you like to buy the girl that supposedly...
Oh my god.
Or would you like to buy one of the many illegal immigrants that have come across?
I'm gonna withhold comment on those.
Disclaimer: I do not sell children. Government, please don't come after me for jokes.
Good.
I do not condone selling children. I just think it's a funny joke.
I'm glad that we got the disclaimer at this point of the podcast. Nah, man, you just gotta listen to the whole thing. Just listen to the whole thing, and then you'll hear it. You'll hear the disclaimer.
I cannot confirm if Fetid Games sells children or not. That is not my business.
I've said multiple times that I have no expertise or comment on this.
But can you confirm that Anime Occult sells children or not?
He doesn't sell children. He doesn't leave. He doesn't leave his den. All he does is like study tomes. That's all he says. Like say, hey, you want to go to something to eat? Study the tomes, and he just goes right back to it. So, I mean, no, he definitely does not have children, or sells them, whatever.
That's good to know. So, Beth says does not condone selling children. Government officials, I know you've listened to this whole podcast and you've really enjoyed it. Clearly, you're the ones that give me all the watch time, government officials. I know President Donald Trump enjoys the podcast and appreciates my non-biased, non-Trump bashing on the podcast. Clearly. So, I seen that the giant TV providers, we got Comcast, we got AT&T, we got all these big people are increasing the price of their TV plans. How do you feel about this?
Well, I do not watch TV, nor do I have a TV plan. I think that they're trying to capitalize or make up for lost revenue against the likes of Netflix and Hulu and whatever service provider or internet service provider is offering. All I can say is that it sucks to suck. I don't care about TV. I can get everything on the internet.
I'm thinking about it. Why don't TV providers fight back? Like in a non-screw the customers way. Why don't they just innovate their product and just change how they currently do it to compete more with a Netflix?
What I've been seeing float around the conversation circles is that these TV providers, who in most cases are also ISPs, are partnering up with different entertainment providers like Netflix and Hulu. I think that for a certain period of time, if you were a Verizon member, you got Netflix for free, or you got Netflix at a reduced amount, or some crazy nonsense like that. I do remember T-Mobile also offering something along those lines as well. However, I wouldn't call them an ISP. Maybe they are because they have internet on their phone. But what I see is that the only way for these ISPs and television service providers to get a leg up is by aligning themselves with other programs and companies and working something out along those lines. But then what you run into is the actual channels themselves, the corporations, like you got your Fox, your NBC, your ABC. They can very well just turn around and start their own Netflix equivalent, and it just be everything that falls under NBC. All the NBC shows, if you want to watch them, you can go binge watch them all on whatever platform that they create. So, I mean, it's a very complex environment that's kind of being created out of the advent of Netflix and Hulu, and the repercussions that the ISPs or the television service providers are facing because they have failed to innovate or keep up with the times, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely you gotta partner with them and try and continue to gain favor
Right.
with the people. 'Cause I don't think it's false to say every year there is definitely a noticeable decrease in people watching TV compared to using Netflix or a Hulu or Amazon Prime video thing or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. So it boils down to you need to partner with them and you need to. I feel like something that would help TV a lot is I'd like a 24-hour buffer. I want on every TV that if I miss recording a show, that I can just go back and inside the TV itself, just go back through the TV guide thing and go back a few hours and record the show, and that'd be good.
Kind of like the DVR. And
Yep,
instead,
I have a DVR, but if you miss the recording, then you miss the recording. You have to wait for them to show the episode again.
right. I mean that'd be smart. I don't know if something like that exists. But like you just go into the menu and then you can go back as far back as like 24 hours and pull up whatever show you wanted to. However, there's a lot, especially when you're talking about all those providers that have like 2,000 channels. That's a lot of bandwidth that they gotta carry and work with. So 24 hours might be a little difficult or ambitious, so to say.
I can agree with that. My counter would be that this should apply to new shows and new episodes of new shows. Because if we went with the scenario of, okay, you're a TV provider and you're partnered with a Netflix, and someone wants to record Impractical Jokers season 5 episode whatever, then you can just be like, oh hey, watch it on Netflix. By the way, they only have season 1 of Impractical Jokers on Netflix. I think that should change. Impractical Jokers is a great show. I feel like that should be a thing.
Teamwork makes a dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Yep.
There you go.
So I feel like if you want to continue, we can continue, or we can end it here, or I can find one more last topic.
I mean, I'll go the distance. We'll go one more.
So, I have watched multiple movies and documentaries over the past 24 hours, and I'd like to know how you feel about these movies.
Oh, this is the bad topic.
This is a great topic. We'll start with the least liked of the bunch. How do you feel about Venom?
I did not watch Venom. I am not a superhero fan. I am not I take that back. I recently saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But that was the last Marvel movie that I willingly sat down and watched, aside the old Thor versus Hulk cartoon that had Deadpool in it somehow.
All right, so next question.
Yeah.
If you had to blindly review Venom, what would your review be?
I would say that the CGI is cheesy. I don't like Venom's voice actor. The plot is convoluted, and it looks more like a comedy with the way that everyone flails around when Venom hits them. That's what I would judge.
What would your final rating be?
I would give it a 2.2 out of 10.
There you have it. We have a 2.2 out of 10 for Venom.
Yeah.
Next movie on the ballot, we're going to continue with superheroes. See how you feel about this one. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So again, I've never seen this movie.
Blind review, though.
Blind review. I like the dynamic between the Wasp and the main antagonist. I feel that Ant-Man needs to carry his weight more. And I'm not feeling it. I give it a 2.2 out of 10. Ant-Man's too small.
I definitely feel like you have some valid complaints there.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we're on a roll here. So, how did you feel about the innovative Black Panther movie?
Again, did not see that movie, but I mean, I guess the car in the trailer is really cool. I definitely like Michael B. Jordan. I liked him in Creed. That's cool. Um, However, I did not like his skin bump, so I'm gonna have to rate it a 2.2 out of 10. Too bumpy.
I think that's very fair.
Too bumpy.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's fair. All right, Deadpool 2.
Okay, so surprise here, I did not see that movie. However, I'm going to rate it on the merits of the first movie, that I also did not see.
Oh boy.
And
Oh boy.
I just feel that Ryan Reynolds is not funny. He's kind of annoying.
Ooh.
And was not pleasing to watch. So I'm gonna give that a 2.2 out of 10.
Oh man, round of applause for these. How about we're gonna go with the most popular movie of last year? Avengers. Infinity War.
Okay, so I did not see this movie. However, Thanos fucking punked everybody in the most glorious fashion. Like, I wish I can just, like, at the snap of my finger, just take out half of the human race out. However, there is a major discrepancy from what I've seen in a Twitter post. It was daytime in New York when everyone died, and it was also daytime in Wakanda when everyone died. These people do not know their time zone, so I'm gonna have to give it a 2.2 out of 10.
That's a very fair point. I feel like I have to agree with that. You nailed it. You nailed. How can a movie that wants to be so complex be such a basic,
Exactly.
a small thing?
The smallest of, like, did it take 24 hours for Thanos bullshit to go? Like, everyone would know. It wouldn't be a surprise. It was like, oh shit's going down in fucking New York. Prepare Wakanda. Prepare everyone else. I don't know what else is in that fucking movie. I just know that.
Well, I mean, you're an expert in this movie.
Exactly. Like, I just know that Spider-Man didn't feel too good. That's about it.
All right. So the last superhero movie for last year that I watched, The Incredibles 2. What is your thoughts?
They made a second one?
They did.
Well, I saw a commercial with The Incredibles, and the kids are annoying. The daughter doesn't look like she interacts with the family at all. She just cares about herself. The father is not taking up his proper place as a role model in the family. I'm gonna have to give it a 2.2 out of 10.
I agree strongly. So the last movie I'd like to get your insight and expert opinion on.
Okay.
This is not directly a superhero movie. It is not made by Disney. It is not animated at all.
Okay.
This one could be gold. How did you feel about Tomb Raider?
I did not see this movie. I mean, the games are pretty good, and I'll grade it off the merit from that. I think that the Tomb Raider games are solid action adventure games with a little bit of RPG spice on top. However, I do have an issue with her shooting all of the dead skeletons that have been waiting downstairs in the caverns that magically have fire that's been burning for the last 1,000 years. So, yeah, there's an inconsistency there. I'm going to say 2.2 out of 10.
Man, I agree 100%. All your reviews, they just come off like a true expert. You could do this for a living.
I could.
You should just throw away the podcast. You should tell Anime Occult to fuck off, and you should just do movie reviews.
That's you just created a new segment in Vetted Games.
Absolutely.
There you go. Blind movie reviews.
Blind movie reviews are going to be the next big thing for Vetted Games.
Exactly.
In fact, when you go to Vetted Games, which will be in the description of this video, anyone that's listening, make sure to comment on their channel that you want blind movie reviews.
Yes. Blind movie reviews on everything. I'll review anything. I've never seen Bird Box. I'll fucking give that shit something. Like, Fuck. Yeah, Bird Box 2.2 out of 10. There you go.
2.2 out of 10.
2.2 out of 10.
The
Too
best...
blind. Too blind.
Too blind. Too blind, too furious.
Exactly.
That should be the sequel
That's
name.
the sequel name.
How do you rate Star Wars as a franchise?
Okay. So I'm gonna try to be actually serious on this.
Oh boy.
When we start exploring the prequels, so I'll start with those. The first movie is pointless. But it's not as bad as the second movie, which is abhorrent. The entire second movie is bad. The whole fucking thing. I mean, there has been different videos and lectures and articles on what they could have done to change it. There's actually a really good series from a couple of years ago. What if Star Wars Episode 2 was good, or what if the prequels were good? You should go look those up. Those are phenomenal videos. But the way that I feel about it is, if someone has to go out and create a streamlined 3-hour version that covers all the important events of Star Wars Episode 1 through Episode 3, you've got yourself a problem. It's out on YouTube. It's roughly 2 hours 45 minutes ish. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it starts from the lightsaber battle with Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul. It brushes over some of the events in Episode 2, mainly the War on Geonosis, and then all the major events that takes place in Episode 3, with Anakin's rise in the Jedi, in the Order of the Jedi, to his denial of being put on the council, or not put on the council, but being a Jedi Master, to the seduction of Darth Sidious, to his ultimate fall. If anyone is going to watch the prequels, that should be the cut that they watch. And I think that for the prequels, if I'm going to rate it anything, it's probably along the lines of a 4. The core Star Wars movies, 4, 5, and 6, I think that 4 is the weakest. I'm not huge on 4. I actually think it's kind of boring. 5 is outstanding, and 6 is also pretty fucking good. I love when the bad guys give a good ass whipping on the heroes, and then they actually get the chance to be victorious in the end. As far as the newer movies are concerned, I'm not happy in the direction that they're going, because I feel like they are just rehashing major moments that took place in 4, 5, and 6. I think that Episode 7 is a rehash of Episode 4. I think that a lot of the parts in Episode 8 is a rehash of Episode 5, especially the last scene with comparing the Battle of Hoth to whatever that planet, that salt planet that they were on. I also think that there are certain storylines that were going on in Episode 8 that could have been used in a Star Wars Rebels cartoon episode, like that entire bullshit where John Boyega and whoever that Asian chick was going down and getting the maps and freeing the animals, and that's kid work. That's cartoons. That's bullshit. I don't care about that. I'm not really satisfied with the direction that the Star Wars team is going in with Episodes 7, 8, and 9. I have my fingers crossed, and at least it's better than the prequels. That's all I can really say, but I'll just stick with 4, 5, and 6.
What if I tell you that there's only been one good Star Wars movie?
I call you a liar.
What if I tell you the only good Star Wars movie is Rogue One?
I do like Rogue One.
I feel like for me, when it comes to a single movie and not a movie needing a trilogy to complete itself, that Rogue One at least told a complete story.
To say that you could argue that it told a complete story when you are not looking at any of the other episodes. However, with the existence of episode 3 and 4, it is a strong connection between the events that take place in 3 leading up to 4. So I think it is one of the best supplements to the core series. However, am I going to sit there and say that it's the best Star Wars movie? No, I'm sorry. Empire Strikes
The
Back
only
all
good
day.
movie in the Star Wars franchise.
No.
I don't actually believe that's the only good movie in the Star Wars franchise. I just wanted to see how you'd react to that.
I didn't think so, but I do think that.
I'm not really as movie wise. I am more Star Trek over Star Wars. I just feel like being an enjoyable movie. I do just kind of like Star Trek better.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Star Trek shows. I don't really watch Star Wars shows. They should get a good Star Wars show going.
I mean, there has
that
been.
isn't cartoons. That isn't cartoons.
That's true. Yeah.
I want a live action, good Star Wars show. This I don't know why this hasn't really been a thing. It sounds like it could be a good idea, especially because Star Wars is a very complex world and universe. So why not get a TV show where you have time that you can actually expand on a lot of the small things?
I agree with you. I think that it's something that Disney has not been capitalizing on. There has been talks in the past, at least when Lucasfilms and LucasArts was a thing, on getting a live action television show going. However, the bread and butter up until Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilms and LucasArts has been in the form of its video games and their books. And I think a lot of that has to do with just where their consumer base really comes in. Star Wars is a very dynamic series, and it's a series with a lot of detail. And I think that that's the reason why video games excel in telling these stories, alongside the books in expanding the expanded universe, which is unfortunately now just Legends.
100%. As you were saying that, I thought of a great idea. We gave blind movie reviews earlier, so I'd like to take it a step further.
Okay.
I want a blind movie review for a non-existent movie. Now, here's the movie. We're going to put Thor, we're going to get the Star Wars cast, and we're going to combine them with the Frozen cast. And we're going to make it a movie with a lot of singing. Do you want to build a snowman? We're going to have Thor try to save the day, but the hammer's frozen to the ground, so he can't really do much. We're going to have Star Wars people just kind of dance. We're going to have Chewbacca be the main star. And for the side characters, we're just going to find some random citizens from the Frozen cast. What would you rate this movie?
So I felt that the storyline was very kid friendly. It was very heartwarming, if you can say. It's the very unfortunate circumstances of when Thor was trying to fight the ice giants in the land of Frozen, and unfortunately, when Mjolnir being frozen to the ground, they had to cut out. They had to call Chewbacca, cut out a section of the earth so that he can carry Mjolnir onto the Millennium Falcon. Han Solo and Chewbacca had to take him all the way over to Tatooine, where they did all this songs and dance and the Katina. It was a great scene, lots of fun. And then finally, when they had the final battle in Star Wars Thorland with the ice giants, it was apex, and the song at the end was great. I had no idea Mariah Carey still had it in her. 10 out of 10, best Disney movie, period.
Oh, I also forgot to mention this movie is 8 hours long.
8 hours. Mariah Carey sang
Yes.
for 8 hours. You hear her like murmur in the background, and then she like picks up her voice during certain parts. It's quite a feat of art. Like, that's outstanding.
There's an extended edition that makes the movie a total of 12 hours.
That's right, because she had parts where Christina Aguilera was in there. That's only in the director's cut because for contractual obligations to the voice, she could not rightfully get on to this Disney movie.
Yes. So I feel like we have created movie gold, and that Disney should pay us a huge, huge sum of money.
Absolutely.
And we will sell this concept to them for the very low price of $8 billion.
Absolutely. And make it a 3-part series.
Because, yes, we want sequels to this, and the sequels have to be longer than the original.
Exactly.
And then you have to remake it 2 years later.
Exactly.
And do a trilogy again.
And Mariah Carey has to make a cameo in every single one of them.
Yes. Even when she dies, just do what you do with Leah and just bring her back.
Exactly. Just CGI her up. But she cannot outright sing. She has to lip sync. That's the secret.
Yes. Clearly. Now, I feel like the only thing missing from this golden movie is we need a big actor. We need that one big... Who's going to play Chewbacca? I feel like there's a lot of good choices, and I think there's no better than President Donald Trump.
I would counter you with a CGI version of Chris Farley. I think that would be apex shitposting. And then you can have him live in a van down by the river. It would be great. But the river is frozen because it's in the frozen land shit.
Well, at least he could build a snowman.
He can build a snowman. He can build wherever he wants.
Would it be illegal to build a snowcastle and make it huge and then actually build that snowcastle into an actual castle and just say, well, the snow melted into stone, so guess it's mine now. I made it.
I think as long as it's on your property, if you do decide to live in it, I don't think that there's an issue. However, I think that there are certain property laws and, you know, you'll probably have to be taxed for the structure that you've created. It just sounds like a whole lot more work than really is necessary.
I have a counter.
You have a counter?
Yes, I would, of course, say with full confidence that God clearly provided me with this castle.
Do you have that in writing?
And so I have it in a mental image.
How is that going to hold up in court?
Well, you see, I will quote the most famous quotes from the Bible. And that will clearly... I will give the director's commentary of the complete Bible from God's perspective. And once you hear it, you will know.
Okay. That probably would work out in certain courts in the United States. You might have a case for yourself.
Especially if I make the castle right next to a school in the Bible Belt. Yep. I feel like I will increase my chances significantly.
Yes.
And if a kid from the elementary school tries to go in my castle, I will stand my ground and use the stand your ground law and shoot them down.
Whoa! This went dark!
Disclaimer, don't shoot kids.
That went in a completely different direction.
It's always the ones you don't expect.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that will be the controversial statement of the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. This is
caught you completely off guard.
This is the cross that we die on now.
Well, clearly you already in court agreed to this system, so
where's my signature?
The power of Christ compels you.
Yeah, that's where it goes.
That was pretty dark.
That was out there, yes.
That's the quality content you can expect. At Beth Says, I will shoot whatever comes off the head and not think twice about it and see how it flies.
Very well.
So, tell us where we can find you.
You could find me on YouTube at Vetted Games. Vetted Games. You could find me there also at Vetted Games Plays. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. All at either Vetted Games Podcast or at Vetted Podcast. You can also email us at vettedgamespodcast@gmail.com.
And you can find the Court of Vetted Games, of course, probably somewhere in the Bible Belt, that approved the castle and approved the standard ground. That link will not be in the description. The rest
I'm
of the
still
links
gonna
will
send
be
you
in
to jail for shooting that kid, dude.
Excuse you, the power of Christ.
Oh, the power of Christ. Got it.
The power of Christ compels you.
Noted.
I would deserve to go to jail in that circumstance.
Probably.
But would I at least get a lower sentence?
I mean, you always get a lower sentence if you come clean with it. You just plead guilty and then,
But I'm not guilty of a crime. I'm guilty of standing my ground.
There is a level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Context that is involved. If
It's
little
not my
Billy
fault.
walks into your castle because he's lost or cold or just stupid, kids are stupid. You got to understand what like rules of engagement with certain people. When can you use lethal force? I don't think that's it just yet.
What if I yell, he's resisted?
You don't have a place to say that he could resist. You can't.
He's resisted leaving my castle.
I mean, is citizens arrest a thing?
I don't know, is it?
I don't know how. I don't think it is in where I'm at.
I'm not sure about the laws where I live at. All I know is you can't sell children, you can't shoot children, and you, what was the other thing? What was the other thing we discussed that we can't do?
You can't build a castle out of snow. Claim it as your own.
Nah. I mean,
you can't sell illegal
probably
immigrants. Not. That's probably a good one. You can't.
No, that went back to the kids thing.
Yeah.
We're only taking the kids in that scenario. We're not taking the adults.
No, that's still human trafficking. That's a no bueno, dude.
Final disclaimer, Beth Says, and Wasocracy, and Vetted Games, I can't speak for Anime Occult, because he's not here.
No, he's part of Vetted Games. He's on my team. Definitely in on that disclaimer.
We do not condone or support in any way human trafficking or building property right next to an elementary school or anything like that would be considered illegal.
Yes.
But if you're in Oregon, was it Oregon with the roadkill?
Yes, Oregon for roadkill. That law is fine. I don't give a shit about the roadkill. Just
although you should
be
able
sanitary
to sell
with it.
roadkill.
You might want to rub a lime on there and clean the meat.
What if I cook the deer right in the middle of the road?
Look, if you got the tool, smoke them if you got them. But just understand, if another car comes down and hits you, that's on you.
I disagree. Clearly, my kitchen is in the middle of the road. You should not be able to run me over.
Why is your kitchen in the...
Because, as you said earlier, if the meat gets tainted, it's useless. So I have to cook it immediately.
So you relocate your entire kitchen into the middle of the...
I have a mobile kitchen in my vehicle. Just for the occasion.
I mean, common sense would tell you to pull over.
I mean, I did hit the deer, so
Yeah?
I probably already am
You
pulled
probably
over
ain't going
in that
anywhere.
scenario.
So I think you'll be fine. But
And if anyone attempts to hit me or the deer that I'm currently trying to cook, I will throw the deer at them.
okay. That's a bold
Clearly,
strategy. I hope it works out for you.
what would you do if someone threw a dead deer on the top
That
of your
is a
vehicle?
fight. That is an immediate fight.
I mean, you said you have a Kia, so the Kia's probably totaled at that point.
I mean, I got the bigger Kia. It's an Optima, but that is a fight. Like there's no going around it. There's no talking about it. I'll get out like I'll be like, yo, no, we need to go down to business. I don't care who it is.
What if I
Put your fists up.
What if I told you the power of Christ told me to do it?
I'll fight God too. I don't care.
Well, we know where you're going.
Yeah,
Then.
I don't give a shit.
Will you get 2 tickets?
Maybe I'll fly first class.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
You always want first class. See, we could keep going for like 5 hours if we really wanted to, but
we
don't have 5 hours.
Yeah, I do have to go pick up my son.
Well, hopefully you and your son have a great time today. Hopefully you enjoyed your experience on podcast. Hopefully.
Yep.
You do not sell your son.
No. My wife will kill me.
Probably.
Will.
Most likely.
Will.
Would you say 10 out of 10 times she'll kill you, or 9 out of 10 times?
10 out of 11 out of 10 times. She'll sneak an extra one in there. But yeah.
She'll kill you right now for suspected of even talking about the subject.
Yes, that will happen.
Disclaimer, Beth says is not liable if his wife kills him for talking about something.
That's fine.
Anime Occult probably is. I blame him.
Okay.
I think that's a good point to leave off the podcast. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure if you've made it this far, you definitely, you invested in the conversation. You want to see more blind movie reviews. Motherfucker, I cannot believe when I'm doing my intro, I got a call. I set my phone to do not disturb with the distinct logic of, okay, if I put it on do not disturb, it clearly says no calls and notifications interrupt except for an alarm. I clearly was interrupted by that call.
I'm sorry. We can start over.
I kind of lost where I was at that point. I specifically put it on Do Not Disturb, so if I get a call from some random trashy place that calls everyone and wants to be like, we have the scam on you. Would you like to participate in my scam? No? I'll call you back tomorrow. The Do Not Disturb button specifically says no calls interrupt, but I was just interrupted by the call. So, I would like to blindly review the LG Stylo and give it a 2.2 out of 10.
2.2 out of 10. Good rating.
As I was saying, you probably, if you're listening to the recording, you hear all this anyway. It was only vetted games that did not hear the outro. But like, comment, subscribe, go to the description, check out all the links. And next week, we will have another fun edition. And down the road, I hope to bring in vetted games in its entirety.
Yep.
To the podcast. One day.
One day soon.
Peace out, guys.
Have a good one.